Hey, what's up everybody? BDL 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so the Phoenix Suns defeat the New Orleans Pelicans in Phoenix in Game 5. 112-97. And, well, this game was a lot. A lot of action, a lot of defense, a lot of Mikal Bridges. A lot of Suns. You got to give them boys some credit. This was a situation tonight where you knew as soon as the tip-off started that the Phoenix Suns had a certain level of swagger about them that they hadn't had in this series. You didn't know where it manifested from because they hadn't really played all that well up until this point. Since Devin Booker went down, they haven't been able to throw a rock in the ocean from behind the arc. Their defense hasn't been up to par as to what we understand it to be, and they just haven't been playing the type of team basketball that we're used to seeing them play. Chris Paul's numbers have been fantastic. DeAndre Ayton's numbers have been fantastic, but pretty much the rest of the team had been kind of all over the place, dealing with the defenders and the youth and the length of the New Orleans Pelicans. But after 4 games of playing against those guys, they've had some time to study them, and tonight you saw a game plan that actually worked. An effective game plan that kind of slowed Brandon Ingram down for the first time in this series. He's pretty much been able to get whatever he's wanted, and tonight he kind of came back down to earth. And a lot of it had to do with the team defense the team played, but a lot of it also had to do with Mikal Bridges, who really bounced back from the previous game where he didn't score very much, and we called not necessarily him out, but more so the guards on the team to try to get him the ball, try to get him opportunities to have easy buckets so that he can contribute to the scoring, because ultimately that's what they're missing with Devin Booker being out. They just haven't been able to get it. You know, we thought Campaign was going to be able to do it. Tonight he came in, played hard, but fouled out. You know, he got 5 fouls somewhere in the end of the third quarter, and they kept him in the game, and he didn't pick up that 6th foul until 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So I got to give him credit for being able to stay on the floor. And he did contribute to how they, to their win. Jay Crowder needs some credit. I haven't talked about him enough in this series. He's been all over the place, flopping and, just playing smart, to be honest with you, doing the things that they need him to do, 50-50 balls, rebounding, hitting threes, hitting free throws, and things of that nature. Just trying his very best out there, dealing with these young kids. Jose Alvarado needs all the credit in the world. He was absolutely spectacular once again, hounding Chris Paul, stealing the ball out of nowhere, and just doing ultimately, momentum capturing plays for his team on both sides of the floor. I would have liked to seen him scale it back a little bit from Trey. I think he was like 2 for 5 or something like that. Even though he did hit a big one down the stretch, and I saw him open in the corner for a shot that I would have loved to seen him hit as well, but he didn't get a chance to get that shot off because CJ McCollum had forced a floater in the paint. But ultimately, the 3-point shooting for the New Orleans Pelicans is what really did them in. Aside from the fact that they were being forced into those 3-point shots by fantastic defense by the Suns, what you saw was them just taking those threes and not making them. You had CJ McCollum out there. I think he was 1 for 8 from Trey. I've talked a lot about CJ McCollum, and I don't think I've given him enough credit for what he has contributed, because he has been a good scoring punch, to say the least. He's really, I don't think they could have won the games they've won without him doing the things that he's done. But I've been critical of him because I have an eye for open players. When a player is open, I can identify that pretty easily looking at the floor. And what is a huge pet peeve of mine is knowing that a player is wide open and seeing another guy force a shot that they do not make at the detriment of that other player who had likely hit a previous shot. I like my guards to have a feel for their teammates in such a way that they look for them in rhythm, because I believe in ball movement and I believe in rhythm passes as a means of making the game easier for myself. That's how I've always thought the game should be played. Just more ball movement and And if you have players that understand the balance between passing and shoot, people like John Morant who really get that, they're difficult to beat because you open up things for yourself and you keep the defense honest no matter what. If they're overplaying the pass, you could score. If they're overplaying the score, you could pass. And if everybody has that mentality, it's impossible to beat you. Like, it's literally impossible to beat you. And I've understood that growing up watching teams like the Spurs and the Lakers of old with Shaq and Kobe and teams that have had fantastic ball movement over the years. I don't like watching players who hoist shots over 4 defenders while 4 other people are open. I don't like seeing plays down the stretch where players want to take it upon themselves to be superstars instead of making the rhythm pass for an open player for the betterment of the team. You know, guys who take it upon themselves to make the decision of whether or not their team deserves to get an open shot based on who's wearing the uniform on the floor at that moment and whether or not they feel they're better for the moment, even though they're properly defended. You're not respecting the overall essence of what it is that you're doing, which is respecting percentages on the basketball floor. If someone has you guarded, a professional basketball player is guarding you. Another professional basketball player on your team is open. Pass to that professional to shoot the ball. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not like you're playing with amateurs out there. You just know the guy ain't going to hit the shot. Alvarado had just hit one. Your team is down by like 7, and you're forcing a floater in the paint. When your guy's right there, all you had to do as you were dribbling into the paint is hit that rhythm pass to that man in that corner who had just hit a 3 a couple plays ago. He hits that 3, and you cut it to what, probably 5? That floater that you shot that didn't do a damn thing got rebounded by another the other team, and it went the other way. It's a 5-point swing. It's like, you know, these are the type of things. It's like, yeah, CJ, did he get you some points? Yes. But these are the plays that make the difference. You don't win because of stuff like this. And I know what it is when I see it because I have an eye for it. I don't know if I see all of the picks. I don't know if I see all the foul calls. I don't see all the, you know what I mean? Certain people have a certain viewpoint on the game. For me, I think pass. And when I don't see the right play made in situations where it needs to be made, so a guy can just get his shot when he been damn cold the whole time, which is usually the case, it's a problem. It's a problem, and usually the team lost. And that was the case tonight. It wasn't the only reason why they lost. But if you look at that box score, you really understand what happened to them. Basically, they forced a lot of 3-point shots. And you look at the bulk of those 3-point shots and who was taking them, it was CJ McCollum and Jose Alvarado. Jose upped his percentage in the end when it mattered most because he had hit that tray I was telling you about. He was 1 for 4 when he hit that rhythm tray we're referring to. That would have put him at 2 for 5. He was in the corner for a rhythm 3 that he would have been hit. If CJ would have hit him, that would have made him 3 for 6. So his percentages were being raised in theory if he hits that corner shot. CJ's was not, because he wasn't hitting much of anything. I think he was 7 for 22. You know, it's just, you know, BI's being guarded, so you can't really look at him for too much. He's not only being guarded, but he was banged up. He took some very hard falls in this game, and I'm wondering what his status will be for the next one, to be honest with you. He took a lot of hard falls rather. So this, you know, you needed more from Herb Jones. I always say this about Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a player I really like a lot, but he does not contribute enough on the offensive end, scoring the ball. Because there's a lot of ways to contribute offensively. Obviously, one we just described, but like a lot of people think offensive means you just scored the basket. No. There are plenty of ways to do things that don't involve you making baskets, but particularly you need Herb to make baskets because they are a little deficient scoring the ball at times, particularly you know, going up against a team like the Suns who could score a lot. And, you know, when they're given in a situation where the Suns had been missing threes pretty much all series, I think the problem the Pelicans came in believing was the fact that they would continue those woes. And they just hit those same shots. Those are the same shots that the Suns have been getting all series long. They just hadn't had them fall. And they fell for them tonight at home. So that was a big deal. I want to give a shout out to Landry Shamet, who played some really good defense earlier in the game when his number was called. I really like what I saw out of him in this game. But it's all about Mikal Bridges, man. Y'all can't even fathom how fantastic that kid was. I mean, everything he did was amazing, both sides of the floor. Like I said, he's one of the best conditioned athletes in the game, the Iron Man of the league right now. And the fact that he plays both sides of the floor, being an Iron Man, is unbelievably spectacular. Unbelievably spectacular when you consider how taxing that is on the body. So 30, I think he had 31 points tonight, 4 blocks, 2 steals, and some boards and some assists to go with that. Absolutely spectacular performance by one of the great players in this league. And I know people don't see him that way. Not yet, because he's a role player on a really good team. But I'm telling you, he's coming into his own, and he's very, very special in a lot of different ways. And he's not going to make a big noise, you know what I mean? You're not going to buy his shoes. But the NBA is going to start to acknowledge him as one of the great defenders in this league. And he will make some all-star teams in his future. You can count on that. So we saw exactly what he's about. If he plays like this for the rest of these playoffs, I think the Suns are a good bet to come out of the West. But if he plays like he did in Game 4, the Pelicans are going to win the series. And that's how real this is. That's why his performance was so important. Because he's the difference, you know. We had started working into our equation that we couldn't expect nothing from him offensively, and that was a problem. Because, you know, really, he would give you 15 points on average mostly. Because, you know, he's going to exert a lot on defense. But in this series, you just need him to do more. Everybody did score more. You want to give credit to DeAndre Ayton and Jonas Valanciunas, the bigs in this series. Larry Nance Jr., you know, all of the bigs. JaVale McGee. They are really working hard out there. Herb Jones, all of the bigs in this series I've been extremely impressed with. They run the floor hard. They dive for loose balls. The hustle that we saw in all 3 of the playoff games tonight was remarkable as well. Not just this game, but all 3 of those games. You saw a lot of diving. You saw a lot of guys who really wanted it tonight. And I was pretty happy with the effort there. So, yeah, this was great, man. Jonas Valanciunas killing boards as usual. Unfortunately, there was a situation tonight where I felt he was just a a step slow, is what I would say. And it's not going to show up in the stat sheet because he basically did what he needed to do. But the problem was this was a situation where you have him out there just a step slow, and because of it, they were able to stretch the floor. As we said, the threes were finally falling for Phoenix as to where they hadn't been. So because Phoenix wasn't making New Orleans pay with the 3 ball, you could get away with keeping Valanciunas on the floor. He didn't have to stretch out to the 3 to block nobody. The fact that he wasn't getting out there wasn't a problem. Now that 3-point shot is starting to fall, suddenly he becomes somewhere that you have to look at and say, okay, if he can't get out there, he's unplayable. You see what's happening? But you can't take him off the floor because now you're left with Ayton. And so it's becoming this is a problem. This is a problem that the New Orleans Pelicans did not have throughout the course of this series, because the Suns were killing it on the inside. In fact, they were setting some type of ridiculous record for 50% or above field goal percentage through the first 4 games of a series. I don't know. I think they set the record for that or something. So tonight was no exception. They did that again. But the difference was they were shooting 20-something% on average from the 3 throughout this series. So when they upped that to 50-something, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they upped it quite a bit tonight. Yeah. Now you're looking at Valanciunas, and he's rushing out there trying to get to those 3-point shooters, and they're splashing them right over his head. So there was a little bit of an adjustment that was made out there on that end from the Phoenix side, and it just came from them shooting and making shots. Cam Johnson had a much better game tonight. His shots were falling and things of that nature. As I said, Jay Crowder got involved offensively. I think he chipped in like 15 points or something like that. That was very important. You know, so you just love what you saw out of Chris Paul as well. Obviously, Chris Paul's the point guard. He's had a phenomenal series, if you ask me. The way he's been carving up the Pelicans. if he wasn't out there, they'd have been swept already. Straight up. Chris Paul has kept them afloat in ways that hasn't been given enough credit at all. So, you really have to give credit to the Suns. This was about the Suns tonight. I went on the record this morning saying the Pelicans were the better team and they were going to win this thing so long as Devin Booker didn't come back. But there was things that I had worked into my equation as fact that weren't fact. The Suns are not a team that's going to continue to struggle from three. The Suns are not a team that's going to always struggle with BI, because now we've seen that they have a plan and it worked. They slowed him down dramatically. He looked mortal tonight, and it was because they put them wing defenders on him with a purpose. They crowded him out of his spots. They didn't cheat off of him. They didn't leave him alone. And I thought that was the way to. That's how you have to play him. You got to play him like Prime Durant, because that's exactly who he is. You got to play him like he's one of those guys. I think what I also saw was confusion in the paint defensively for the Pelicans. Situations where, they wouldn't stay back on the big because Chris Paul was just kind of confusing them in such a way where he would get the switch he wanted and then be able to dance with a guy like Valanciunas and take advantage of him. And you'd have to make a decision. Either you're going to stay back and guard the big, or you're going to come forward and guard him at that elbow. And he would take advantage of that every time. And BI and players, and Larry Nance, players like that, would just make the wrong decision. They wouldn't stay back, and it would be an easy dunk given up over and over and over again. It's very, very important that the coach, Willie Green, see that and make that quick adjustment right away. Because if they don't figure that out, they're going home. So what I see is Monty Williams answering the call. I said in the video, there's going to be some things he's going to have to figure out. He's got to figure them out fast. He got to figure out BI. He got to figure out that three-point line. Got to figure out campaign, his situation, and why he's been inept in this series. You got to figure out a way to get Mikal Bridges involved in the scoring. All of the stuff on the checklist that I said the Phoenix Suns need to figure out, they figured out. All of them. Every last thing. So as far as I'm concerned, Willie Green, the ball is in your court now. You get everything going back to your house. And just like the Phoenix Suns was dealing with things they needed to adjust to, now it's your turn to adjust as well. And I have all the confidence in the world in Willie Green. He has proven throughout this series that he is just as good as a coach as Monty Williams, and his team is just as good as the Phoenix Suns, so long as they don't have Devin Booker. And tonight, he just caught a counter punch in the face. Good adjustments were made against his team, and you got to give credit to the Phoenix Suns, who've had the best record in the West the whole year, and they played like it. This wasn't about the Pelicans. You saw Jose Alvarado played well enough to win. The defense and the momentum and the way that he was controlling things on that side of the ball, they played well enough to win. It just wasn't enough against this team when they play like this. When you get this type of efficiency from the starting lineup of the Suns, when you have, Ayton, Bridges, and Chris Paul all extremely efficient, yeah, this is what I was talking about when I was saying that when you're playing in a game 4, you gotta be focused and pay attention to detail. When I said that in the previous video about the Timberwolves game, this is the type of thing that I wanted to see out of the Timberwolves, what the Phoenix Suns showed. They know the importance of when you have a game 4, understanding that it takes game 7 energy and game 7 urgency to win that game. That attention to detail that you would give a game 7 is what you should put into that game 4, so that you never, ever, ever find yourself with your back against the wall without your opponent first feeling that feeling. That is one of the most important psychological aspects of playoff basketball, is when you get that game 4 and you put that stranglehold on that other team and you make them have to adjust for their lives. That's the situation Willie Green is in. The adjustments that the Suns made, now he has to find a way to counter those things for his season, as opposed to just being, it being something he can counter, and then if it doesn't work, we adjust to it. Nah. This is Make your next move your best move. That's what the situation that the Suns put them in by playing that much harder, by winning the 50-50 battles, by ultimately just taking care of the basketball a little better, shooting the ball a lot better. Those are the things that put them in a position. Playing harder defense, just a little harder, even though you can't fathom outworking Jose Alvarado tonight. But I think that's exactly what you could say Mikal Bridges did. That's exactly what you could say he did. And look, he's not a docile beast. Don't make no mistake about it. Mikal Bridges is not a docile beast. I think I read him wrong. He is not somebody you're just going to be able to throw somebody at and get into his head. He's very mentally tough. And he will bark back at you. He dunked on B.I., screamed, was talking. This is somebody who's going to be a problem for a long time because he don't get tired. He plays both sides of the floor. He shoots the ball. He's great in open court. I mean, he's the type of guy that wins finals MVP. Remember Iguodala and Gold? Mikal Bridges like that. So I know what I'm looking at. I know exactly what I'm looking at. It's just, the question is, are you going to get this out of him every night? Or are you going to get what you just saw out of him in Game 4? You know, that's the thing for him. You're consistent because you show up and you're there and you run and you play deep. But that type of scoring, until Devin Booker gets back, them 31 points, that got to come from somewhere. And if it can come from the guy that they can rely upon every night to always be on the floor and always be out there, that's what the Suns need. Because Cam Payne ain't reliable. Cam Johnson, they ain't reliable. You know, those guys aren't consistent. They haven't been in this series. I saw Coach Monty Williams called Aaron Holiday's number tonight. I thought that was a good idea. You know, run some of them other guards. Aaron Holiday ain't no scrub. He's a Holiday, you know. He could play. I think that he should get as many minutes as you can afford to give him. He doesn't suck by any stretch of the imagination. And there was some other stuff going on down there. Trey Murphy, I need him to show up. You know, with the minutes that he's given, he had an 0 for tonight. You're too talented for that, young fella. Like, way too talented for that. I know you're a rookie, so it ain't gonna be no pressure. But, you know, I will say this: everybody, when they get to the playoffs and when they make all-star teams and stuff like that, they need to understand that this literally might be the last time you get there. There have been guys who've won championships their first year and never got it again. There have been guys that got to the playoffs their first year and never get back there for like 9-10 years. This is not one of those things where it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll see you next year. Nope. You gotta seize those moments when you're there, man. Love that championship journey early. That's my suggestion to every athlete. Love it early. Don't wait till you're old to really be hungry for that. Skip that step and be hungry for it from day one. Believe that. That's the only way to be. That's how I feel about that. It was something else, man. It was another player that didn't get their number called or didn't play well or something I wanted to mention. I just can't think who they are. Probably someone on the Pelicans. But I looked at their stats and they just did not show up in this game, and I wish I could think of who they were. But they're off the hook because I cannot. But they need to step up if they're going to save their season. You know, B.I. pressed the issue tonight. I thought he was very aggressive. I'm not going to kill him. He was very aggressive. But I just thought the defense did a fantastic job against him. Unlike the first 4 games. They figured something out. So now you got to adjust out of it, and that's it. So I'm not going to make no predictions for this next game. I'm not. As you guys can see, I've given this more attention than I've given any others because I care more about this series than any others, to be honest. This one and the Timberwolves series are my 2 favorites. But what it really comes down to is the Suns really are a very good team. And they proved that tonight. They've been struggling throughout this entire series. They haven't been able to throw a rock in the ocean from 3. But they figured themselves out tonight. They made every adjustment necessary to segue from the last game to this one. And they beat a team that they just outworked. A worthy opponent that gave a good effort, that had a nice game plan. They just were better tonight. Simple as that. They were a better team than the Suns, the Pelicans tonight. That's it. And if they do it again in New Orleans, they'll be moving on to the second round. Simple as that. So Pels got their back against the wall. Hey, Bi's gonna have to get a good night's sleep and some treatment on that body, because I know what type of punishment he took. Valanciunas is gonna have to figure out, more so, not him. I think the coach is gonna have to figure out what he's gonna do about that situation. Is the answer more Jackson Hayes, because he can kind of get out there and guard those perimeters? I saw him go big with big lineups. Jackson Hayes, Jones. I think he had Larry Nance out there at one point. He tried something with the big lineup, and I thought that gave him some interesting looks. Maybe he could try something like that. I don't know, but he's going to have to figure out an adjustment, and he's going to have to remember that Chris Paul is always going to be lurking. So no matter what's going on in a game like this, when you're getting ready to get closed out, you really are dealing with a surgeon who's going to probably look to pick you apart, to say the least. So it's looking bad for the Pels, man. I just look at the situation. I say the Suns are in an urgent situation to try to close this team out. They know how dangerous this team is in a one-game situation, and I just don't know that they're going to allow them to do that again. Now that they found something that worked, now that the two-point shot is, in theory, falling, I don't know that they take any steps back from here. So that's my early assessment of what I'm seeing. I think the Suns gave it their all tonight. I don't think they should have any regrets. I just think that they, playing smart is key. You can always play hard, but playing smart is key. And if you don't work together, you don't recognize when you're cold and to give up the ball. You don't recognize how to take care of the basketball. You don't recognize how to take advantage of the refs. So what are all these little different things that make you the smarter team? If you don't do those things for every game, you're going to have an opportunity to lose to the team that does. And that's what happened to them tonight. The Suns were the smarter basketball club tonight. Period. They were smarter. And I think that's ultimately why they won. Mikal Bridges gets a game ball, but the whole Suns team was super efficient, so they all get the nod. BDF 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.